Arg, me hearties, and welcome to another Teching 101 video, matey! Alright, I know I usually open these up with an extraordinarily clever and well-thought-out intro segment, but for this one, I'm just going to do a standard announcement, because this is something that's rather important to me. If you have been following Rustage's One Piece D&D, which is now a very hit card game, I just love the fact that William has a trading card, okay? And I'm William! I'm on a trading card now! I have finally achieved one of my dreams. Okay, anyway, One Piece D&D. What may very well, in fact, be the series finale is going to be recorded today over on Rustage's Twitch. It will be at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the second part of episode 70, I guess is what we're going to call it. A lot of crazy stuff happening, and if you've been following the series and you want to be with us, maybe at the very end, I guess we'll see what happens. Now, with that all being said, today's video, we're going to be talking about some serious subject matters. We're talking about Buggy, all right? Now, no, seriously, though, this is the chapter 1082 that just happened. This is the chapter where Oda is finally writing Buggy seriously. Now, to elaborate a little bit, up until now, Buggy has been written for the most part as a comic relief kind of villain, where we know he's really not all that powerful. I mean, he's God, but, you know, he's really not all that powerful. And we know a lot about his backstory that Oda has explained, even all the way back at the very beginning in Orangetown. We learned that he was, you know, at least on a ship with Shanks. And then later we find out how relevant Shanks is, and we're like, okay, wait a second, but if Shanks and Buggy were on the same crew together, oh my god, they were both on Goldie Roger's crew. So what I mean by that is I don't mean that Oda has been writing Buggy as an absolute joke for the sake of him being a joke, all right? He's comic relief. That doesn't mean that, like, oh, there's nothing relevant can happen with Buggy, or he's a complete gag character and that's all he's there for. No, he's there for some laughs. It's funny to see him in these kind of scenarios where all of a sudden he now has a legion of followers, like he's a cult of personality. He's like their messiah figure, like, I will lead you all out of Impel Down into the light. That's funny. That's funny to see Buggy in that kind of scenario. It's also funny when after Impel Down they look at Buggy and Luffy as the ringleaders of that breakout, whereas, you know, you have Crocodile and Ivankov, who's a commander in the Revolutionary Army. You have Jinbei there. You have two warlords and a top brass of the Revolutionary Army, and they're focusing on Luffy and Buggy, okay? So those kind of scenarios. And then he becomes a warlord and gets his own island and has his own operation as Buggy's delivery service. And then he becomes an emperor. I mean, it's funny to see Buggy in these scenes, but Oda has finally begun to actually write his character and, like, have time to focus on it and where we're going into the final saga. And I'm so happy that Buggy is going to be relevant in the final saga. He is not just going to be there to be a gag or to be a joke. I'll be honest with you. If Buggy actually manages to reach Laugh Tale, I would be okay with that. I would be fine with that. I would not be sitting here like, oh my god, really, we're doing this? Buggy, the joke character, ends up finding the One Piece. You know, like, listen, you really gotta look into Buggy's past and also what he said to Crocodile and Mihawk in the last chapter, all right? So we're gonna break this down. This was a big moment in One Piece, all right? So first and foremost, I want to set the stage for you here, okay? We don't know exactly how Buggy ended up on Roger's crew. We know that Shanks was found as a baby in a treasure chest. Maybe they found Buggy in a treasure chest too. I really wouldn't be surprised. We have now 3 children, 3 babies that were found in treasure chests somewhere in the world, all right? We had Shanks, Buggy, and Uta. Why not, right? Well, in any case, Buggy ends up on Roger's crew. Him and Shanks are the same age, and they basically become friends. Now, the original dynamic that we assumed was that Shanks was the very competent, you know, he's like skilled and he's getting stronger and stronger and he's like Roger's protege. And then you have Buggy, who's kind of there as just like, you know, him and Shanks are kind of friends, but they get into more arguments rather than not. You know, maybe kind of like a sibling rivalry kind of setup, all right? And the general vibe is Buggy hates Shanks. This is something very important to keep in mind because this was established as Buggy's character all the way back in Orangetown. Buggy hates Shanks. Later on, at Marineford, kind of the same thing, where Shanks shows up to stop the war, and Buggy at first is shocked, but then what does he do? He goes up to Shanks and is just like, "What are you doing here? You ruined my life, you red-haired," Like, that was the general idea, that Shanks and Buggy's relationship had become strained, and the impetus for this was the event that led Buggy to eating, the Barabaranomi. He found some kind of treasure map, and he was excited to go and find the treasure, and then he had the Barabaranomi, and then Shanks snuck up behind him, and then Buggy was just like, "Oh!" and just eats the entire pineapple, which, once again, I would say that's more on Buggy's fault, but whatever. He drops the treasure map, it falls in the water, he jumps in, he can't get it because he now has a devil fruit power, and that was the reason for their strained relationship, or so Buggy established, okay? All the way back in Orangetown, this was established. In the last chapter, Buggy finally comes to terms with what he really feels here. And the real reason why he's angry at Shanks. It's the whole treasure map thing. I mean, I think most people could probably look at that and say, like, there's more going on with this. This is not just about a treasure map. This is like, this is like well over 25 years later. You're still mad over a treasure map. I mean, maybe it was a really relevant treasure map. Who knows? Maybe it was a treasure map to, like, Wang Zhi's treasure vault or something. In which case, I understand. But, like, all of this over a treasure map? Like, really? And he finally explains. It's almost as if, like, Buggy himself, over the years, convinced himself, talked himself into it. Like, the reason I hate Shanks is because he took that treasure map away from me. I lost it because of him. And it wasn't until last chapter, when Mihawk and Crocodile were discussing their plan, is really what got Buggy finally thinking about what he really thinks about Shanks, and he kind of flashes back. I also think part of this is Buggy is in a precarious situation now where he is an emperor, but he's being bossed around by two characters, Crocodile and Mihawk, that are way stronger than him, right? And, they're beating him up, and he's hanging on the chain, and he's just like, "Oh, God, it hurts so much. Just end it, please." I think Buggy basically reached the end of his rope, like literally and figuratively, the end of the chain, I guess, he was dangling off of, where it's just like, you know what? I got nothing left to lose. You know what I mean? I feel like Buggy reached that point where he's like, I got nothing else left to lose at this point. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to speak my mind for the first time in a long time, damn it. Like, genuinely what I really feel. So, when they were growing up on Roger's ship, they learned how to be real pirates. I mean, you can't be more real than that, being on the Pirate King's ship, sailing on the Oro Jackson. Yeah, you might say Buggy is a screw-up, he's weak, compared to everybody else, but, like, dude, he learned from the best of them. He learned from Goldie Roger and Silver's Rayleigh and Scopper Gabon. He learned from the best pirates that ever sailed the Grand Line to be a pirate, all right? So, yeah, he might not be as strong as Roger or Rayleigh, not even close, but he has some dignity, damn it. He knows what real pirates do and how real pirates act, okay? So he's there swaying on a chain, and here's Crocodile and Mihawk going over this really convoluted, complicated plan, trying to build the utopia nation, this military state. They need wealth and power, and to really cement that into the world stage. And Buggy's listening to this, and it just goes against everything that he learned growing up on Roger's crew. Apparently he's supposed to be an emperor now. This is supposed to be an emperor crew, and this is their plan. This is what they're going with. And Buggy just literally cannot let that slide. He really does, I think, reach a point where it's like, okay, if I speak up against Crocodile and Mihawk, they're going to beat me up even more. They might even kill me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure Buggy is aware this is on a train that's going to hit a mountain. Eventually, Crocodile's just going to have enough and take the hook and just, rip Buggy's face clean off, okay? Like, it's just going to happen, all right? Or Mihawk's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to charge enough hockey into this thing, no devil fruit's going to save you. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way it's going to go. There's other ways to get rid of Buggy, okay? Even if he's immune from cutting damage, He's aware of this, right? He got the crap beat out of him. He knows. He's aware. But even so, Buggy still speaks up. He speaks up. He speaks his mind, and he's just like, listen. And not only does he speak his mind, he kind of admonishes Crocodile and Mihawk. He's like, this is not how pirates act. It's like, I know you're going to hurt me for this. I know I'm not supposed to speak up here, but this is not how pirates do things. I was on the Pirate King's crew. I was with red-haired Shanks, and Shanks is making a move now, and somehow, through a chance of fate, I don't know how this ended up happening, but I'm on the same class as Shanks here. I have my dignity as a pirate. Everybody else on my crew, they're going to be inspired by the same thing that I was inspired by you guys were inspired. At least Crocodile was. Crocodile was 100% inspired by Roger's death and going out to sea and finding the One Piece and becoming king of the pirates. Mihawk, maybe not so much. He was kind of doing his own separate thing. But Crocodile, definitely. And Crocodile, same thing. He got defeated by Whitebeard. He lost his hand, and he kind of just forgot about it. Just like a lot of other pirates in the world, when they get beaten down, when they really discover how strong, like the Yonko are, and how big the world is, and how dangerous the Grand Line is, they give up, and they set their sights way lower. Way lower, you know what I mean? It's like if you're going to start a YouTube channel, and the first thing you think of is like, I'm going to have 100 million subscribers. It's like, okay, interesting goal. That's like setting your sights really high on top of the mountain. But at a certain point, after you realize how tough that is, you might lower your expectations a bit. Like, okay, maybe not maybe not 100 million, maybe just a regular million, maybe 100,000, maybe something like that. You're gonna lower your expectations, and that's the way it is for, I think, for a lot of pirates, where a lot of pirates are just like, okay, can't reach Laugh Tale, can't find the One Piece. I mean, the only people that are going to be able to even on the running for that are the Yonko, and you can't best them. Okay, the best you could do is maybe join them, so maybe you could do that, but then that's kind of giving up your dreams for the dreams of another, kind of like what Ace did, you know, and that's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I would think a lot of pirates just have to, like, accept the fact they're not going to reach it, and they have to, like, okay, if we still want to be pirates, we have to go about this from another angle. If that means bowing our heads to a greater pirate to make them the Pirate King, that's what we got to do, okay? And so Buggy is going on and on about this, and he's talking about his past with Shanks, and he reveals the real feelings he had here, okay? Buggy from day one realized Shanks was the prodigy. He was the kid that was going to surpass Roger. He was the one that was going to become, you know, the next king of the pirates. Buggy had readily accepted that, okay? And, you know, imagine that dynamic for a moment. Buggy and Shanks are the same age. They're like little kids on Roger's crew. Is just better at everything compared to you. You cannot measure up in the slightest. They're stronger than you. Shanks' skill with the sword is better. Shanks is, you know, obviously stronger. Maybe he's getting a better handle on hockey at that young age, like Roger's teaching him hockey, and, you know, Shanks can get it, but Buggy just can't. And it's just like, no matter what you do or what you try, Shanks is just better at everything, okay? But even then, remained friends, because it was almost like Buggy had accepted that. He's just like, you know what? Shanks is just better at everything than me. And you know what? Maybe there was a little bit of jealousy. Maybe there was a little bit of animosity there, but I don't think all that much. I don't think there was that much of it. I think it was just the acceptance that my friend is better at everything than me. And that's okay. That's fine. There's no way I can measure up. And I think the reason why Buggy thought it was okay was because, well, after the crew disbanded, after Roger turned himself in, and after he was executed, Buggy still saw a ray of hope, because Shanks and Buggy could not go to Laugh Tale because of Buggy getting sick. And Shanks is a real friend for staying behind. And he says to Buggy, he makes him a promise, you know, we will eventually go to Laugh Tale together. We will form our own pirate crew, and we will go someday. Do not worry, Buggy. And I think Buggy at that moment realized he pictured the future, where after they leave Roger's crew, they get together on their own crew where Shanks is the captain. And I think Buggy was ready to accept that. You know, if Shanks, as soon as Roger was executed, if Shanks was like, okay, Buggy, let's get a crew together and go to Laugh Tale, find the One Piece, and carry on the captain's will, carry on Roger's will, I think Buggy would have immediately been like, hell yeah, let's do it, bud, you know, let's do it. But that's not what happened. That's what Buggy anticipated to happen, but that's not what happened. After Roger was executed, I think Shanks kind of realized that, like, okay, I'm not going to be able. It's almost as if maybe Shanks sensed the beginning of the Great Pirate Era. You know what I mean? Like after Roger's last words had really sunk into him at Logtown, Shanks realized there's going to be so many more pirates on the Grand Line now. This changes things. The paradigm is different. I'm going to go about this a different way. I'm still going to be a pirate. Don't get me wrong, Buggy. I'm still going to be a pirate. I'm still going to get a crew. You can still join. But I'm not ready to go to Laugh-Tale yet. We're not ready to go get the One Piece like right now. Keep in mind, at this point, when Roger was executed, Buggy and Shanks were both like 15 years old. Okay, so they're like, I think Shanks wisely realized, okay, it would be a very different game, you know, when we're on the Pirate King ship and we're apprentices versus going out on our own and creating a pirate crew. You know what I mean? He realized he had to train, he had to gain up power, he had to gather crew members and really get some chops on him as a captain before he could even attempt to take on the Grand Line, okay? Shanks went about this a very pragmatic way. I don't even think Shanks, by the time that he was 27 and he met Luffy at Fuchsia Village, I don't even think they had been to the Grand Line yet. I think they left Fuchsia heading towards the Grand Line. And then it was a few years later after that, it was 6 years after that or so, when Shanks became, or no, 4 or 5 years after that, you know, whatever, 6 years from the present storyline, when Shanks became a Yonko. Okay, so Shanks went about this like the long game. He's like, Laugh-Tale's there, the One Piece is there, it's not going anywhere, okay? I'm going to take time and build up my forces, and then I'm going to go. And that shattered Buggy's expectations immediately. He viewed Shanks as like this savior to him, you know, like Buggy is the savior to all the Impel Down prisoners. Shanks was kind of Buggy's savior. Like, it's okay that the captain's gone. It's okay the crew is disbanded. I still have my best friend. And he's clearly the one that Roger entrusted the will to. Also because Roger gave him the straw hat. Can you imagine that too? Because Shanks didn't always wear the straw hat. So I'm wondering if like there was a moment when Buggy and Shanks were there and Roger gave the straw hat to not Buggy but Shanks. And that's when Buggy started to really realize like the inferiority a little bit of just like, there's just no way I can measure up to him. And he was upset at first, but he was okay with it as long as Shanks would carry on Roger's will. But now he went back on his word. He's like, oh, we'll go to Laugh-Tale, Buggy. Actually, I can't. And Buggy's like, screw you, man. We're not friends anymore. It was devastating to him. It was devastating to him, okay? And I think it really did mess Buggy up for a while, where he's just like, you know, being a pirate, that's the only life he's ever known, okay? Literally. So he wanted to continue being a pirate, but he wanted to be with Shanks. He wanted to go to Laugh-Tale on the One Piece and that dream that they promised. But then all of a sudden Shanks is like, no. Now, was Buggy acting a little bit rashly there? I feel like he was. Now, keep in mind also at this point, this was right after Roger had been executed, right after they witnessed their captain and their father figure get killed on the scaffolding. That's when Shanks was like, I can't go to Laugh-Tale, and that's when Buggy got upset and left. Maybe if they waited around a little bit, maybe even Buggy felt sorry for that. Maybe a couple of days later, Buggy was hanging out in Logtown, and he was like, maybe I should go to Shanks, and maybe I should say I'm sorry, and maybe I should go. And Shanks was long gone at that point. Maybe Buggy was like, okay, fine, well, whatever. If I made my bed, I gotta sleep in it now, I guess. And then he moves on, you know what I mean? And so he retreats into the east, and he does start a pirate crew with Kabaji and Moji and Richie and everybody, but it's not even close. He doesn't even attempt to go to the Grand Line. He's not even trying to do that. He's living the pirate life because that's the only life he's ever known, and so that's what he does, but he's too afraid to go in the Grand Line. Or maybe it's like, I don't want to go into the Grand Line unless Shanks is there, unless I go with Shanks. And maybe Buggy is even holding on to that while he's, you know, parading around the East Blue and the Big Top with his crew and causing just general mayhem, you know, blowing up towns with buggy balls, you know, as you do. And maybe every once in a while, maybe his crew are like, hey, Buggy, Captain Buggy, we should go to the Grand Line at some point. And maybe Buggy is just like, nah, I can't. It's too dangerous there, you know. I was there a long time ago. It's really dangerous. I don't want to go there. Maybe he just, you know, he is afraid. I mean, going into the Grand Line by yourself without, you know, Goldie Roger around to help you out, I mean, that is daunting, because Buggy knows more than most the absolute terrors that lurk in the Grand Line. He knows about the Yonko. He knows about Whitebeard. He doesn't want to mess with that on his own unless Shanks is there to help him out, okay? And it stays like that for a number of years, where he just kind of becomes complacent. And you know what, though? Now that I'm thinking about it, it might be less about complacency and more just about, like, the longing for Shanks to return and then they go to Laugh Tale together. Okay? Now, the thing that twists this around, that gets Buggy moving, is when Luffy shows up. And Luffy, what's he wearing? That straw hat. And as soon as Buggy sees the straw hat, he probably tried to not think about Shanks for a number of years, but he sees that straw hat that Luffy's wearing, and he realizes the torch has been passed once more, and now Luffy is the one that's carrying on Roger and Shanks' will, and that gets him moving. That finally gets him moving. Like, you know what? I'm going to the Grand Line. I'm going to do it. Just, if, Luffy's doing it, Shanks is doing it, I'm going to, okay? And so that gets Buggy into the Grand Line. He gets imprisoned and impaled down. Luffy helps break him out. All that stuff. The whole thing with Captain John's treasure is happening in the meantime. And so it's just slowly but surely, kind of like, this is the story of how Buggy got his groove back. I might actually call the video that, How Buggy the Clown Got His Groove Back. I might just call it that. Seriously, because he was all ready to go back into the Grand Line to Laugh Tale as long as Shanks was with him, and that just got destroyed. And so flash forward to 20-something years later, where he's in the East, and he's just like, he's drinking, he's having a fun time with his circus and everything like that. They're blowing up towns, but he's not really happy. There's like an empty hole in him, and he's just like, I need to fill that void with something. And it's about living up to the legacy that he dreamed about. I'm sure Buggy, when he was on the Oro Jackson, dreamed of being a great pirate like Shanks and like Roger and Rayleigh every single night. And then he had to abandon that, and he feels remorse for that. He feels like, I'm not living up to the kind of person I wanted to be, okay? But that ends now. That ended in the last chapter. In chapter 1082, Buggy kind of realized, you know what? I am cowardly. I am afraid. I don't know what level. I'm an emperor now. I don't know how the hell this happened, and it's very daunting to me. But you know what? I'm done running away from the person I want to be. I want to be Buggy D. Clown, King of the Pirates. I want to be the one to find the One Piece. I actually end up with the resources. I'm just too afraid to get moving. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this before Shanks does it. You know what? I am a great pirate. I'm going to make it happen. Even if he has to convince himself that, I'm going to do this, okay? And so he speaks out to the whole crew. They all get riled up like, yeah, Captain Buggy, let's find the One Piece. All the pirates, the spark that inspired them. Crocodile's the same way, though Crocodile got really upset when Buggy said that. He's just like, he like bites right through his cigar. But I think after they sit down and really think about it for a little while, I think Crocodile was realizing, like, maybe we can do it this time. Maybe we can actually make it work. Because if we do get the One Piece, as Buggy said, let's go and claim it. Let's take it. If we take the One Piece, we're good. And you know what? Like, here's a question. This is just something. I know Shanks and Buggy did not go to Laugh Tale, but they have to know at least the general location of it, right? I feel like that just doesn't make any sense. Like, even if they didn't physically go there, like, Roger and everybody were like working on the maps and just like, okay, they had all 4 road poneglyphs and they were plotting it on the map, and they were like, okay, we found the location, all 4, point to, it's this location right here. Did Shanks and Buggy not overhear that conversation, or did not anybody tell them? Did Shanks at no point go up to somebody on the ship like Spencer or Millet Pine or like anybody and ask them like, oh, hey, did you figure out where Laugh Tale was? Aye, matey, we did. It's located right here. You know what I mean? Like, did that not happen? You'd think they would have heard it from somebody else, or they would have overheard it from somebody. Maybe not the exact fucking location, like the exact like longitude and latitude, but like, generally speaking, from where they were in the world. Like, okay, how about this? Even this is something relevant, okay? They dropped Buggy and Shanks off on that island because Buggy was sick, right? And so Shanks and Buggy, they stayed with him. And then the Oro Jackson left to go to Laugh Tale. They found it. They found the One Piece. Roger laughed. All that stuff. And then the Oro Jackson returned to pick up Buggy and Shanks. Just that information alone, how long was the Oro Jackson gone from that island? Let's say 10 days. Let's just make it simple. They were gone 10 days. Okay, well that means Laugh Tale, wherever it is probably 5 days journey from that island, and then another 5 days back. And that's very critical information that nobody else in the world would have other than Shanks and Buggy and other members of Roger's crew. That are the only people that would know that, okay? Because that's relevant. If that island is there, like, Buggy would know. It's like, okay, I remember the island where I was sick, And Roger's crew was gone for 10 days, so it has to be somewhere around there. Like, even if he told that information to Crocodile and Mihawk, they are leagues ahead of most other people, okay? So, yeah, I think Buggy has the tools to find Laughtail and the One Piece. Now, would I be okay with Buggy being the first one to find the One Piece? Like, finding Laughtail is one thing, getting to Laughtail, but, like, what if Buggy's the first one to actually see the One Piece? You know what? I would be okay with that if it was Buggy and Shanks. If Buggy and Shanks together landed on Laughtail and found the One Piece, obviously the Straw Hats are going to be the ones to actually claim it. But if Shanks and Buggy were there and they saw it, and it kind of like ties up this story that they've had and this promise that they made, that would be a really big deal. Okay, and I think a lot of people are assuming, well, the Straw Hats are going to be the ones to find Laughtail and the One Piece, right? Well, no, the Straw Hats are going to be the ones to ultimately claim it, whatever it is. And then Luffy will become the next king of the pirates. So Buggy won't become the next king. Shanks won't become the next king. That's going to be Luffy, 100%. But that doesn't mean that Buggy and Shanks can't be on Laughtail. They can't be involved in the war. They can't be there at the time when the One Piece is discovered. It's just Luffy's going to be the one that's going to win out above all of them, right? So, yeah, that's the way it's going to go. That's the way it's going to happen. So I'm really excited on the way that Buggy's being written now. I think moving forward, Buggy will still be Buggy. He'll still be goofy and silly and stuff and comic relief. But I think Oda's going to have an air of seriousness now, where Buggy has kind of come to the end of his rope, and he's realized that, you know, Crocodile and Mihawk could kill him at any given moment, but it's like he doesn't care anymore. And it's like, all right, if you're going to, you know what? I can imagine at a certain point, with the way that Buggy has riled up his men now, and I think he realizes that Buggy himself is the glue that's holding that Emperor crew together right now. So if Buggy kind of realizes this, he might go up to Mihawk and Crocodile, and he's like, Crocodile's like, shut up, you stupid clown. You don't know anything. Let us plan everything out and keep your mouth shut and stay in the corner. What if Buggy's had enough of this, and he's like, you know what? Do it. Do it, Crocodile. Bring it on. You want to finish me off? Just do it. Do it. Take that hook and just sink it right in. Do it. And Crocodile's like, damn it, I can't. Because he's the Emperor. He has the status. That whole freaking everybody here is going to listen to him. You know, but Buggy might catch Crocodile's number and just might be like, huh, okay, good. Now we're doing this. Let's go. I'm the Emperor here. You know, like, it's going to go to Buggy's head. It's going to go to Buggy's head. Mihawk and Crocodile were kind of keeping him in check. But if Buggy realizes, like, what do I have to lose if I'm going to die either way? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So let's just roll with it. So, yeah. Okay, anyway, that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Now moving on to some turtley facts. Go to the intro.
Time for some turtle facts. Time for some, turtle facts. We're going to talk about turtle facts.
All right, so in today's turtle facts, we are talking about a really cool turtle. This is the alligator snapping turtle. This is a turtle that is indigenous to southeastern United States. If you live down in like Florida, Louisiana, I think they extend all the way up, kind of like up along the Mississippi River, up into like, you know, Kentucky, Missouri, that kind of region as well, and the swamps down in Louisiana, though, definitely very prevalent. I always love seeing nature documentaries with these things because they look like real-life dinosaurs, okay? I mean, just look at this thing. This is an alligator snapping turtle. This thing, dude, if you were to tell me this was a Pokemon, like, look at the shell, look at the face. I mean, this thing looks like it's straight out of, like, some kind of anime, okay? It really does look like some kind of creature from some far-off, like, parallel universe or something like that, okay? It's really cool. So, it is the largest freshwater turtle in the United States. They are not closely related to other snapping turtles. Snapping turtles is the family of turtles, so the common snapping turtle and the alligator snapping turtle are related, but not very closely. Let's see here. They resemble an ankylosaurus, which is a dinosaur, which is another reason why I love these things so much. In terms of overall size, like in terms of weight, I think the heaviest, or like 250 pounds, was like the heaviest recorded ones, 230, 240. Although that's not like standard. Usually it's maybe like around maybe somewhere less than 200 pounds. I think there was one recorded one that was like 400 pounds, but then we start getting, I think that was back in like the 30s in like Kansas. So then we start getting into the whole situation with like the snakes. It's just like, I have the largest alligator snapping turtle in the world, 400 pounds. And there's really no records to confirm that one way or the other. And it happened almost 100 years ago. So it's like, okay, sure. So we don't know for certain. Even though they have a very impressive, scary name, alligator snapping turtle, like you can see these things in the water devouring giant alligators. So they do eat smaller alligators. They have been known to do that. Their diet is almost entirely carnivorous. However, they don't go around hunting like the big alligators. Alligators can get pretty huge. Okay, it takes a while for them to get that big, but they can get pretty big. So an alligator snapping turtle versus like a fully grown, like really old alligator, that's not going to probably work out too well. Although they could probably wound it pretty severely, because those things, there's a reason they're called alligator snapping turtles. Those things have jaws. Okay, but they mostly eat crawfish, fish, mollusks, insects, other turtles they can consume. They have this really cool thing where they hunt primarily at night, but during the day they kind of like settle at the bottom of like the murky swamp, and they just open their mouths underwater, and they have a tongue that kind of resembles a worm, and they move their tongue like a worm would move, like kind of wiggling like this. And then a fish sees that and it's like, ooh, a worm, and then like super fast, they just close their jaws and eat. So that's really cool. Reminds me of the SpongeBob episode with the Alaskan bullworm. It's like, that's its tongue, dun 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 dun, like that. Let's see. In captivity, they can live from 20 to 70 years, but they have been recorded to live up to 200 years. This is not very common, but they can live that long. So yeah, pretty cool. Alligator snapping turtles. Let me know if you're from a region of the nation, especially if you live down in like New Orleans or like in Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, if you live in that region of like the South and like the swampy region of the U.S. where these things are probably pretty common. Let me know if you've ever actually seen one, or if you've been hiking out in the swamps, or if you've seen somebody like, handle like an alligator snapping turtle, because these things are always really fascinating to me. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Teching signing out. Have a good one. Remember, One Piece D&D finale today at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's only 11 o'clock where I'm at right now, so this should be out a couple hours before then. Rustage's Twitch. Be there or be... Yeah, Tarantino reference. Later.